At the beginning of the universe, there was neither light nor darkness, not even a single moment. It is said that time itself did not exist back then. When the universe took its very first breath, time was born in that exact instant. A force that humans still haven't been able to fully understand. Some say time moves in a straight line. Some believe it bends, and others believe that it can even stop. But is there really a place where time comes to a halt? Where can a single moment be equal to centuries? This very mystery is revealed in the story of Time Trap, where humans themselves get caught in the web of time. So, if you love such mind-blowing science fiction movies, then you're at the right place. For more explanations like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel. So without any further delay, let's start the video. Hopper was searching for something in a deserted area along with his dog. Hopper was an archaeologist. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the entrance of a cave on a distant hill. Hopper started walking toward it. When he reached the cave entrance, he shined his flashlight inside. There was a man standing inside. Hopper called out to him several times, but the man stood still like a statue, as if time itself had stopped for him. Hopper couldn't understand what was happening. At that moment, he went back to his students with his dog. After saying goodbye to his students, Hopper returned to the mysterious cave, this time fully prepared. First, he tied a rope at the entrance of the cave so there would be no danger while going inside. His dog was with him, but as soon as they reached the cave, the dog clearly refused to move forward. Hopper once again looked at that strange man. He was still standing there, completely motionless. Hopper decided that he would go inside alone, but after taking just a few steps inside, he felt that the air ahead was vibrating strangely, as if an invisible wall stood between the cave and the outside world. The sight fascinated Hopper even more. Without thinking twice, he crossed through that air and descended deeper into the cave. But Hopper didn't know that when he crossed that invisible wall for the first time, 3 full days had already passed outside the cave. Hopper's sudden disappearance made Taylor realize that something was wrong. He gathered his 4 friends and set out into the hills to search for Hopper. On the way, they didn't find Hopper's car. However, inside an old bus, they did find a childhood family photo of Hopper. Taylor assumed that Hopper had come here alone in search of his family, who had mysteriously disappeared years ago. That meant Hopper had to be somewhere nearby, but they couldn't find any trace of him. Then Furby noticed an old rope behind the bus. Following the rope, they all reached an empty cave, but the rope ended right at the edge of a deep ravine. It was hard to understand what lay below. Still, the 4 friends decided to climb down, while the frightened Furby stayed outside, without knowing that this decision would become the biggest mistake of his life. The other 4 friends continued descending with the help of the rope. On the way, they also passed through that invisible wall of air, but they didn't feel any resistance. The scene cuts here, and we return to Hopper, who has crossed the invisible wall and is moving toward a man standing still like a statue. As Hopper got closer to him, the man's body slowly began to move, and the moment Hopper crossed the invisible barrier, the man suddenly started walking, as if time had begun to flow again. Seeing this, Hopper's heart started pounding rapidly. Then another strange event occurred inside the cave. The light from outside began to flicker in a bizarre way, as if some other force had taken control of it. At the same time, a deep roar echoed from the cave, freezing Hopper in place. His breath caught, and then a human scream pierced his very soul. Now Hopper was certain that this place was extremely dangerous. Trembling with fear, he ran out of the cave without looking back. But when he reached outside, the ground seemed to slip from beneath his feet. The outside world had completely changed. What had been daytime just a short while ago was now night, and his dog was nowhere to be seen. The only small relief was that his car was still there. But as soon as he reached it, he realized the car was completely hidden in the bushes and wouldn't start anymore. At first, Hopper thought someone was playing a prank, but when he looked at his ID card and saw that it had completely turned yellow due to oxidation, He realized that something very serious had happened. There was no time to think, though. He had to get out of there as quickly as possible. In his panic, his eyes fell on an old car parked on the road. Hopper shouted loudly, hoping for help, but there was no response. Then he thought that maybe he could take the battery from that car and use it to start his own vehicle. But as he got closer to the car, his heartbeat almost stopped again. That car had been standing there for years. Hopper clearly remembered that when he had come here for the first time, there was no car there. Just then, he noticed an old backpack inside the car. It belonged to his student, Taylor. Hopper called out to Taylor in every direction, but there was no reply. Now Hopper was truly frightened. He thought that maybe Taylor had also gone inside the cave. To save his student's life, he decided to return to the cave once again. Now, we are taken back to Taylor and his friends, who have already descended into the cave. As soon as they are inside, they hear someone screaming from deep within the cave. The moment they hear the sound, everyone panics, and Jackie nervously starts climbing up using the rope. But suddenly the rope snaps, and Jackie falls down. Then, when Taylor gently pulls the second rope, it also falls down. At first, Taylor thinks that maybe Furby is playing a prank on them. But when he angrily picks up the radio and calls out to Furby, there is no response for a long time. The team was still trying to make sense of the situation when suddenly a loud crashing sound echoed nearby, as if something heavy had fallen. Everyone froze in their tracks. Taylor steadied himself and called Furby on the radio again, asking him to send down another rope. But then something strange happened. Suddenly, Furby's scream came through the radio. He was crying out for help. Everyone was shocked because Furby was just a child. But this didn't sound like a child's voice. The sound made the team even more uneasy. Together, they decided they wouldn't wait any longer and set out to look for Furby. As they passed through an open passage, their eyes went toward the entrance, where the light was flickering unnaturally, sometimes bright, sometimes going out completely. Meanwhile, Tara noticed a tall rock. When she climbed up onto it, she saw a broken rope lying there. It was clear that this was the same rope Furby had used to climb down. But the moment she looked below, her heart started pounding. Furby's body was lying there, motionless. Grief and fear appeared on everyone's faces at the same time. When Taylor examined the rope closely, he became certain that someone had deliberately cut it, as if they wanted to stop Furby from coming back up. But this made no sense, because Furby had always been timid and never had the courage to climb down alone. To understand what had happened, the team decided to check Furby's recording device. But as the footage continued, their confusion only grew deeper. The recording clearly showed that by the time the team reached the bottom, 7 days had already passed for Furby. During those 7 days, Furby had discovered Hopper's Jeep and also an emergency rope set up at the base of the mountain. Inside an abandoned bus, he even found an old medieval journal. It said that a Spanish queen had sent an expedition in search of the Fountain of Youth to save her husband's life. But the cave's native inhabitants attacked them. A few people barely managed to escape, while an entire army mysteriously disappeared. An even more shocking revelation came when Furby found another journal, Hopper's father's. It revealed that Hopper's parents had also once come to this cave in search of the Fountain of Youth to save their sick daughter. As the recording continued, time seemed to pass rapidly, and it showed that Furby now had no food supplies left. He had realized that the other 4 people would probably never return. He had no option to drive the manual car, and walking back thousands of kilometers was impossible. So he decided to climb down, using a rope to search for Hopper's body. But the moment he reached the entrance, the light there suddenly flashed brightly, and then the rope snapped. Furby fell straight down. What the camera captured was so terrifying that the group couldn't gather the courage to watch the rest of the footage and shut the video off. Now, they were faced with a huge question. When the team had only been in the cave for a few hours, how had 7 days passed for Furby? No one had an answer. But one thing was certain. The mysterious nature of the cave was responsible for all of it. Their goal now was to get out of there alive, no matter what. But no one trusted the ropes anymore. Kara was the only expert climber on the team, and she decided that she would climb up and bring help from outside. As soon as Kara stepped out of the cave, her heart sank. What was once a dense, lush, green forest had now turned into a barren wasteland. The air was so toxic that she kept coughing non-stop. When she pulled out the satellite phone, she saw there was no signal. Just then, her eyes fell on a massive sandstone rapidly moving toward her. Searching for a signal, she climbed higher. But what she saw next shook her to the core. A triangular structure was floating in the sky, and the moon was so close that its craters were clearly visible even without a telescope. Panic-stricken, Kara immediately ran back into the cave and told the group everything she had seen. But the group didn't believe her. According to them, Kara had stepped outside for barely a second. To prove it, Kara showed her recorded video, and Taylor backed her up with his own footage, which clearly showed that Kara had indeed been outside for only 1 second. When both recordings were compared, a truth emerged that shook everyone. Time inside the cave was moving extremely slowly, and the flickering light at the entrance was a sign that the sun outside was rising and setting every moment. That's why whenever someone tried to climb out, every single second outside the cave turned into a full day in the real world. No rope could withstand such intense friction and the weight of time, so it would always snap. Now Taylor watched the recording again in which Phoebe had fallen. But as the video continued, the mystery and fear only deepened. Phoebe hadn't died immediately after the fall. He remained unconscious for a while, and then slowly began to regain his senses. After Taylor kept calling out to him, Phoebe finally gathered the courage to respond over the radio. But then something happened that left everyone stunned. In the camera footage, the legs of a gigantic figure suddenly appeared, and without any hesitation, that mysterious person picked up a massive stone and brutally killed Phoebe. Seeing this, the group realized one thing clearly. There were others inside the cave, and they were extremely dangerous. But the real terror was only the beginning. When P carefully examined the new footage, something strange caught his attention. When Phoebe was falling, the sunlight didn't look the same. Its direction kept changing. At first, Wave thought it was just a camera glitch. But when she slowed the video down 10 times, her soul began to tremble. The sun shining in the footage was actually on the horizon, and every single flicker was a sign of an entire year passing. By that calculation, while only 1 hour had passed inside the cave, thousands of years had gone by on Earth. Realizing this, Kara completely broke down. Until now, she had been clinging to the hope that maybe they could go back up and get help. But now, she was starting to believe that perhaps there were no humans left on Earth anymore. She was just sharing this with the group when suddenly, from the mouth of the cave, a glowing blue rod dropped straight down and slammed into the ground. The group was still trying to understand the mystery of this blue rod when a strange figure appeared at the cave entrance. He was nearly 10 feet tall, his face covered by a mask, and his mere presence was enough to terrify them. He stood there silently, staring at them without making a single move. Suddenly, a wild man attacked him from behind, but the giant figure used his strength and advanced technology to crush the attacker and slam him to the ground. After that, he looked back at the group again, still without saying a word. This eerie silence only made them even more frightened. Taylor couldn't tell whether this man was a friend or an enemy, so everyone decided to run, without realizing that the real danger was only just beginning. After passing through a narrow stone tunnel, they reached an open area. They had just started to feel some relief when the sight of a fresh corpse on the ground shocked them all. The body was still warm, as if death had occurred only minutes earlier. Jackie looked at the face and began to shake. It was Hopper's mother, who had been missing for 4 decades. Nearby lay the body of Hopper's father as well. The group was still in shock when they noticed a pack of wild people looting a cowboy's corpse. Taylor immediately realized that these were likely Furby's killers. He signaled everyone to stay quiet and move slowly toward another tunnel. But then one of them spotted the group. Now there was no escape for anyone. Music Taylor decided to stay behind and fight so the others could get away. The struggle lasted for a while, but in the end, the wild people knocked him unconscious, and one of them stabbed him. Kara and the other two somehow hid in a narrow tunnel and managed to escape from the feral humans. When they finally left, Kara came back to check on Taylor and found him badly injured. But the trouble wasn't over yet. That giant man showed up there again. Kara's heart started pounding, but this time he didn't say anything. He had just come to collect water from the pond. Seeing tears in Kara's eyes, he stopped, then moved toward her. He signaled her to stay calm and gently picked up Taylor and submerged him in the pond. Kara panicked. She thought he was killing him, but the giant creature gestured to Kara that he was actually saving him. Just then, the wild people returned. They threatened them to leave the place, but Joint ignored their warnings and punched one of them hard. At the same time, Taylor's breathing started again. He came back to life, but he still didn't realize that the one who had saved him wasn't an enemy. It was a helper. During the scuffle, one of the wild men accidentally tore off Joint's mask, and the truth was revealed. He couldn't breathe Earth's air. Due to the lack of oxygen, he began to suffocate. Even so, with his last bit of strength, he knocked down the wild humans using a strange technique, but he collapsed as well. Taylor finally understood that he had been helping them. He quickly picked up Joint's mask, but it was already too late. All the oxygen had leaked out. The group gathered around Joint. Kara asked him what the outside world was like. He didn't answer. He simply pulled out a device and began scanning everyone's faces. It showed only missing person notices. It felt as if humanity had long since forgotten them. Then, using his remaining strength, he activated a projection that revealed the entire history of humankind. The group saw that 1,000 years after their disappearance, Earth's air had become so polluted that oxygen was gone. Trees, plants, animals, everything had disappeared. Whatever remained of humanity boarded a triangle-shaped faster-than-light spaceship and set course for Mars. The plan was to return one day, after Earth's ecosystem had healed. Learning this truth completely shattered Taylor and the group. They now knew that their old lives were gone forever. Even if they managed to leave the cave, nothing outside would ever be the same again. Just then, Taylor found the backpack Hopper had left behind, and he remembered why they had come here. He made up his mind. Now they had to find Hopper and decide their path forward themselves. He picked up an old revolver from the cowboy's corpse and moved toward the darkness of the cave, where perhaps all the answers to their questions were hidden. At one turn, the path split into two. There, Taylor noticed a line of glow sticks scattered on the ground. Seeing them, he immediately understood it was Hopper's trick. He must have left them so he could remember the way, and so no one would get lost. Following the glow sticks, Taylor moved slowly ahead, and soon he witnessed a strange sight. Ahead, he saw a tribal man carrying a leather water pouch for his dying mother. But what was truly terrifying were the scattered bodies of feral humans lying all around. Every one of them had bullet wounds in their bodies, as if a brutal fight had taken place not long ago. Taylor realized this was all Hopper's doing, and that maybe Hopper was still alive. Ignoring the tribesmen, Taylor headed straight toward the cave. After taking a few steps inside, he reached a corner where he saw Hopper lying unconscious. No matter how much Taylor shouted, Hopper gave no response. He just kept staring blankly at something above. Taylor looked up too, and what he saw shook him to his core. A glowing blue barrier completely blocked the path. Beyond it was another cave, and on the other side, a feral human was chasing a little girl. Sensing Taylor's confusion, Hopper said, "She's my sister." He explained that time moved extremely slowly inside this cave. From the outside, It looked as if everything had come to a standstill. Hopper said this was only the beginning. The real mystery was hidden deeper inside the cave. The scene there felt like something out of a dream. Some soldiers from the medieval era were seen fighting a horde of wild humans. Maybe this was the lost army of the Spanish Queen, whose stories had so far existed only in books. Outside, centuries had already passed, but inside the cave, the battle had only just begun. Time moved so slowly here that it was almost impossible to comprehend. Taylor stepped toward the barrier, intending to save Hopper's sister, but Hopper quickly stopped him. Hopper said, "If you cross to the other side of this barrier even for a second, thousands of years will pass on this side. By the time you come back, we'll all be long dead." They had only one option: leave this place as quickly as possible. With a heavy heart, Taylor agreed with Hopper and tried to get him out of there. But then he noticed the wound in Hopper's chest, which wouldn't even let him move. At the same time, the magical water the girl had thrown on one of the wild humans began to take effect, and they started getting up one by one. Now it was clear, if nothing was done, no one would survive. Understanding the situation, Hopper asked Taylor for his revolver and said he would use whatever strength he had left to buy the other time to escape. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he shouted, "Run while you still can." Hearing his voice, the entire group sprinted toward the tunnel, heading for their old exit. But when they reached the spot, they saw that the white glowing light that had once been there was now replaced by a steady green glow. Confusion was written all over their faces, but time was running out. They immediately ran toward the chute ladder that led outside. As soon as they reached the ladder, they saw that the exit was now completely blocked by a glowing green liquid. Below them, the wild humans stood staring up. Realizing the situation, Kara gathered her courage and put her hand into the liquid, but instantly, an unknown creature grabbed her hand and pulled her inside. Kara struggled with all her strength. Taylor immediately grabbed her hand to pull her back. Below, one of the wild men noticed a glowing button on the ladder. The moment he pressed it, Taylor and the others lost their balance and began to fall. In the chaos, Kara was completely pulled into the liquid pool. But the most shocking thing was this. The creature inside the pool didn't harm her. Instead, it placed an oxygen mask over her face. From Kara's point of view, Taylor and the others looked frozen in place, as if time itself had stopped. Then, 3 electronic tentacles emerged from the water. They grabbed Taylor and the others tightly, lifting them into the air. The wild humans standing below could only stare in shock and disbelief. Moments later, even more tentacles entered the cave. But this time, they ignored the wild humans and went straight into the tunnel, searching for something, as if looking for a specific object. Suddenly, the scene changes, and we see Far waking up in a pool of water. He looked around. The atmosphere was completely strange. Through a window, he could see the earth looking small, as if he was now in space. He was trying to understand what was happening. Then Hopper emerged from the water. They looked at each other, stunned. But before they could say anything, Taylor and the others arrived. They were wearing new uniforms, and Hopper's parents and sister had also been saved using the same magical water. New beginning, a new world. And this is where the story ends. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, and to watch more cinematic explanations like this, subscribe to this channel.